Vanderbilt and Diego Pavia are going to snap that streak against South Carolina.
You are Locked On Vandy, your daily podcast on the Vanderbilt Commodores, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into the Locked On Vandy podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Corey Burton. Thanks for making Locked On Vandy your first listen each and every day. Shout out to you everydayers. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube as a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. So download the app today. Now, on this episode, we're going to get into the keys to the game. Chris Marler and I are going to be doing a crossover later on. We're gonna end the week with a crossover with me and Chris. So stay tuned for that, and then maybe even a recap show if the game is super competitive. So stay tuned for that as well. But I wanted to go ahead and give you the condense the keys to the game, just kind of summarize what I've been talking about all week, and narrow it down into three main keys for victory for Vanderbilt. But first, I want to get into the significance of this game, because this game is very, very important when it comes to Vanderbilt and the trajectory of Vanderbilt football and all of that stuff, because there's this losing streak that Vanderbilt is on currently. It's a 16-game losing streak. They haven't beaten South Carolina since 2008. The entire time that I've lived in Nashville, I have never seen South Carolina lose to Vanderbilt, or vice versa. I've never seen Vanderbilt beat South Carolina. They've had some close games. They've had some close calls, but for the most part, South Carolina has been on the Vanderbilt's been on the wrong end of that streak with South Carolina, and at some point that streak has got to end. I think there's things when you look at when you look at how streaks work and things like that, I do believe it's going to end, and usually it ends in the most unique and bizarre ways that you can possibly end a streak, right? Like a home game where South Carolina is thought to be the heavy favorite. You've got the best player in the country, and it just I don't know, like this rivalry can often take on some bizarre things. So that's kind of where I'm at with that. But the significance of this game is this, and it's not, and it goes beyond just beating South Carolina. I think that's important enough, given the streak and given the rivalry and given the way that this matchup has gone, even over the course of the lifetime of this matchup. But I think there's even bigger things beyond that as well that could change the path for Vanderbilt football. Like South Carolina's ranked 11th, 12th, somewhere in that range. I think it's changed. I haven't really looked at the rankings. Vanderbilt is very close to being in the rankings, so I'll pay more attention to it if the closer Vanderbilt gets to it. But this will be a ranked win for Vanderbilt, and this getting a win like this. Now, the win against Alabama launched them into another stratosphere. I think this win Saturday, if it happens, I think this win is one of those type of wins that lets everybody know that, hey, Alabama was not a fluke, right? This team is a program that is going to be for real moving forward. Because if you can, you made a statement, a smaller version of that statement last weekend against Virginia Tech, when you rattle off 34 unanswered points in the second half, and you just physically dominated and made them quit in their own stadium. Like, I think that said a lot for what Vanderbilt football is looking like here in the near future. Now, so you do that on the road at Williams-Brice, that says a whole totally different thing, because Lane Stadium is a very hostile environment. I'm not taking anything away from Lane Stadium, but Williams-Brice is on another level, and everyone that I've talked to has said so. And for some reason, the weather is always hell's waiting room when you play there. Sandstorm is wild. The crowd gets rabid. I mean, just looking at the comments all week, like, this fan base is insane. They're crazy. They're passionate about their team. And I love it, dude. I love what they're doing as far as support for their team. And they've always been that way. They've always supported their team. And their team has gone through some rough years throughout throughout the course of their program history. Like they've had some years where it wasn't great to be supporting South Carolina football, but they did. They've always been there. And I think that helped when it kind of helped build that program back up, especially like more recently when they got Steve Spurrier, and then they went through the Spurrier years, which was really, really good football for them. They had a really good run of recruiting. They had a really good run of, like, they made the SEC championship game. And they did some really good things. And I think they've kind of built a program and have been able to build a program. And a lot of it goes to that support. So to be able to get a win in an environment like that, I think would tell Vanderbilt fans that, hey, this team is, they went and they took care of business in that environment with everything stacked against them. I mean, you're going against one of the top players in the country. You're going against, Shane Beamer, who is rising in prominence in the coaching world. Clark Lee doing that himself as well. But it's one of those type of wins that can send your season into a really a successful trajectory. And it's a win that could take your season from good to great. And depending on how you capitalize off of it moving forward, like just imagine the hype, the buzz, and everything if Vanderbilt's 5-0 heading into Alabama. The recruiting, I mean, the recruits take notice of that. NIL starts to kind of get involved. I mean, you're in one of the top 10 cities in America, one of the fastest growing cities in America, in Nashville. Like, imagine if the city of Nashville gets latched onto your program and gets that fanatical support that Nashville tends to like to give to different things that they like to latch onto, like the Predators, the Titans, the NFL draft, potential Major League Baseball team, like whatever it is, Nashville can get fanatical about things. So the significance of it can launch them into a stratosphere that they've never been into, a stratosphere that they looked at under James Franklin, but when he left, they came crashing back down to earth. So it was a place that they were heading towards when James Franklin was here. They dipped into there a couple of times before that, with Jay Cutler, and there were some other seasons where they were, the couple bowl seasons they had after James Franklin as well. They kind of looked into that and said, okay, hey, we got potential to be here. But, I think under Clark Lee, it's been more sustainable. It's been more gradual. And a win like this would just put that, I think would just put you into something where you can be, you can be a special type of program. So this is an atmosphere that if you conquer, I'm not going to say you're conquering it long term, but I think if you conquer it right now, given the circumstances, given where South Carolina is ranked, given everything surrounding this game and everything surrounding the narrative around Nashville and around Vanderbilt, this game could make for a very special moment for this program. And that's something that's motivating for this group. And I think all of those factors are riding in with Vanderbilt. And I think that could propel them. That could be a factor that propels them to make those extra plays, to surpass a lot of the distractions that Williams-Brice Stadium causes. And all of that, I think, is a factor. So how do I see this game happening? How do they make that happen? How do they go into a hostile environment like this and get that possibly season-changing, program-changing win? All right, you got one last year. This one proves that you belong. The Alabama game put you on the map. This one proves that you belong. This one proves that wasn't a fluke. You win this one, people are like, okay, maybe they were onto something with Alabama. Maybe they were onto something with their bowl win and their 7-6 record and their upward trajectory. Maybe they are for real. Like, this game would go a long way in proving that. So how do they do it? How do they win it? We're going to talk about that next. First, I want to tell you about DoorDash. Who delivered? Man, it's almost the weekend. It's time to look back and crown this week's MVP on Who Delivered, powered by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash Streaks, saving more every time you order. These players delivered when it mattered most. Let's break it down. So for Vanderbilt, I said that Trey Richardson delivered in a big way. And I think it happened, and I think I noticed it happen when he made that touchdown catch on the pylon to kind of blow the game wide open. Because at that point, it was still a tight game. At that point, Vanderbilt was still trying to fight for momentum, and Virginia Tech still was very much in that game. And then I think when he made that catch, I think that let the rest of the air out of the stadium. And it was a spectacular catch, diving through the pylon, and just the concentration it took with the guy draped all over him. Pavia dropped a dime in there, and he just held through it, ran through rolled through the pylon, and it was a touchdown. So when the pressure was on, Trey Richardson came through, no hesitation, no delay. And if you've been watching week after week, this performance wasn't a fluke. Trey Richardson is on a streak, and just like Trey Richardson delivered for Vandy, DoorDash delivers for you on Saturdays. With DoorDash Streaks, you save every Saturday you order. Stack it up all season. You could save $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday. Keep the streak alive. Fuel your game day. Fuel your game day only with DoorDash. Terms apply. Promo period through November 18th. Thanks for making Locked On Vandy your first listen each and every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube as a part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every single day. And if you want to keep it free, make sure you hit that subscribe button, and we will, it will be greatly appreciated. You won't regret it. And if you need a second listen, Locked On SEC is the place to go as well. Chris Gordy does a phenomenal job breaking everything down. He's going to be live from Baton Rouge. And that's going to be a lot of fun too. So check that out. SEC Squad Show coming out as well. And yours truly, I don't know if they're going to put it in the show. I think they are. I recorded a clip for it, so hopefully it goes live. But the Amazon College Football Kickoff Show, I'll have a clip, and they'll react to it based on the Vandy, South Carolina game. So making my Amazon Fire TV debut. I'm pumped, dude. I'm pumped. And if we're 5-0, I might make a live appearance. That's a possibility. So get pumped. All right. But we're going to talk about the keys to this game for Vanderbilt. And I've been kind of talking about it all week, and I wanted to kind of in every Friday episode, and this one's coming out a day early because Chris and I have flip-flopped our end of the week schedules, and we're going to actually do the crossover for Friday's episode. So stay tuned for that. So I'm going to do my keys to the game early, but I wanted to condense everything I was kind of talking about all week summarize it into three main keys for victory. Okay. So the first one is this. The first one is offense. Diego Pavia and the offense must place an emphasis on ball control. They must execute. Now, what I mean by that, and that's a very general statement, and I get that. So I'm going to explain it. All right. For the offense, I think it's important for the offense to be able to control the line of scrimmage. They have to be able to control the clock, and it's going to come with patience. It's going to come with not trying to take unnecessary shots down the field. It's going to come with being able to run the ball effectively and be able to stay out of third and long situations where Dylan Stewart can get you, and where the whole defense, Brian Thomas as well, can pin their ears back and come after you. You don't want to be in those situations. I think they got in too many of those situations last season, and it wasn't good. They were able to avalanche South Carolina, or South Carolina was able to avalanche Vanderbilt, and it turned into a blowout because Vanderbilt just could not contain that. They could not control it. They could not. It was like the dam breaking, and they just got flooded, and they just couldn't do anything. Couldn't run the ball. They couldn't get anything going down the field, short, quick, anything. Everything was disrupted. The rhythm was thrown off. Pavia was already banged up, and they banged him up even more, and he wasn't effective as a runner. So there was just really, South Carolina was able to shut down everything that this Vanderbilt group was able to do last year. So in order to prevent that, it's got to be ball control. You've got to control the line of scrimmage. This is a more physical offensive line. So you've got to be able to do that. And executing, you've got to be able to have these wrinkles off of the plays that you showed against Virginia Tech. And they have plenty of wrinkles. They have plenty of pre-snap motions, shifts, and things that change the look for the defense, a lot of window dressing, a lot of things that will present problems. They have all of that. Now they just need plays off of those plays. There was one play design in particular that I really liked where they orbit motion the running back, and right as he was about to run outward, they snapped the ball and he chopped his feet down and then acted. He was basically in the position of an I running back, like an I formation running back. And then he planted, changed directions, and came downhill to take the handoff. And they ran counter, they ran G lead, they ran inside zone, whatever the scheme was. It doesn't matter. That motion was pretty filthy. And you're starting to see that around college football. I saw Georgia Tech do it. Saw LSU do it. I've seen a lot of people start to do that type of motion. Of course, the exit motion that the Miami Dolphins did a couple of years ago, I think that's starting to become prevalent as well. And Vanderbilt did that. And it just changes the look for the defense, and it forces the defense to be able to communicate and talk quick. And South Carolina's defense has been very, very good, and it was evident in their first game. I think the South Carolina State game is a wash because the weather delay. It was just a weird game, and I don't. They were very vanilla in that game because they just didn't want to throw stuff out there unnecessarily. They just wanted to do what it took to win that game, and the talent just kind of took over, and they didn't really have to do much. But against Virginia Tech, I feel like they had to account for Kyron Drones, and they had to make sure that all they did was force the game to be on Drones' shoulders, which Kyron Drones has proved now in back-to-back weeks that he really couldn't handle that. So for South Carolina's defense, it's going to be an important game for them because they're going to have to do that to Diego Pavia as well. And I think knowing that, I think Pavia is going to have to combat that and be able to get the ball out to other weapons, be able to figure out ways to not necessarily get the ball out of his hands, but be able to take some of the pressure off. So that's going to be a challenge, but it's got to be execution. It's got to be with Tim Beck. It's got to be the right calls at the right situations for Diego Pavia. It's taking the 25% of the time that Tim Beck makes a bad call and gets them into a good call, right? The quote with offensive coordinators has always been, hey, we're going to be right 75% of the time. Quarterback, it's your job to make me right. And the other 25%. That's kind of a general quote, but if you really looked at the percentage, the percentage of wrong, it's hopefully Diego Pavia can make a lot of those situations right with checking the play at the line of scrimmage, things like that, or just escaping with his legs and finding ways to just make plays like he did against Virginia Tech. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be a game plan that I think is going to be dynamic. It's going to be unique. There's going to be some wrinkles that South Carolina hasn't seen, and there's going to be some things that they're going to do that is going to simultaneously satisfy the desire to control the ball and control the clock, as well as being explosive. They have to find that balance, because if they try to be too explosive, I think that goes outside of their means. And I think they become something that they're not really used to, and South Carolina can feed off of that. But then if they try to go too much ball control, you kind of can get bogged down in that. And that's not good either, because South Carolina can just hunker down and just kind of swarm you and just kind of force you to sink slowly. And that's not good either. So you got to have a combination of both to kind of keep South Carolina off balance. So that's going to be a major key for them in that regard. Defensively, and I'm going to talk about this briefly and then come back and finish up my thoughts on that and finish up the show. But for South Carolina's offense, I think you have to force them to become one-dimensional. And what that means is suffocating the run game, and make sure you do to Sellers what South Carolina's defense did to Kyron Drones and ultimately South Carolina State's quarterback, who I don't know who that is, but it didn't take much. But and then come after him. So you have to suffocate the run game, put it all on Sellers, and then come after him. Because if you can make this team one-dimensional, and I don't think they're a huge threat running the ball. Nothing like they were last year. Nothing like they were last year with Rocket Sanders. I think running the ball, they're still trying to feel their way through that. I think there's a lot of things that I think they're trying to work through They'll never admit that, obviously, but I think Mike Shula, he's got his hands full trying to figure out exactly the balance of, hey, how much do we run LaNorris Sellers? How much do we keep him in the pocket? How much do we move the pocket? How much can we get him out on the edge in the design run game? What can we do with Sellers to make him a legit weapon? And I don't think they've quite figured that out yet. Will they figure it out? I don't know. But I think for Vanderbilt's defense, you can't allow them the opportunity to try and find out. You're going to have to just suffocate it and say, hey, if you're going to figure this out, you're going to have to figure it out with as much stress as possible. You're going to have to figure out with the crowd possibly booing you. I don't know if South Carolina fans would boo them, but just the thought of that possibly happening if their offense sputters, trying to figure out how to get LaNorris Sellers going. Because here's the thing with LaNorris Sellers, and here's what I really like about him, and here's what I hate about his situation. That dude's talented, man. Like, that dude's the best quarterback in the country, bar none. Talent-wise, he is, statistically, probably not, but like talent-wise, potential-wise, like he's got all the tools that you want as a quarterback. And he's the type of leader that you want. Like, he's got everything that says superstar about him, except for I think he has an offensive coordinator that I think is going to waste time trying to figure out how to make him a superstar. I don't believe that he's developing at the rate he should be. I think he should be a better passer than he is. And a lot of that scheme, a lot of that is play selection. A lot of that is them not being able to get themselves in situations. Like, when they got momentum after that punt return, after the 2 punt returns, really, at the Virginia Tech game, when they got momentum, and they had it in spurts. Like, their first drive, when they're on script, was phenomenal. The game planning is great. Like, when they're on script, dude, they're awesome. It's when they get off script. That's when it gets tricky. Hang on. I'll go more into that here in just a minute, but hang on. I have to tell you about Mazda, okay? Because you're going to like it. Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. Mazda delivers confidence with every ride, with more IIHS Top Safety Pick Plus awards than anyone else. From footwork to breathwork, athletes sweat all the details, and Mazda brings the same intention to how we craft every model. You can feel Japanese craftsmanship in every detail, from the metallic accents to available Napa leather upholstery. You can make everyday drives feel anything but, from smooth handling and intuitive controls. With all-wheel drive standard and every crossover SUV, you can drive with confidence throughout almost any season. So like our players, we sweat every detail, because when you make every moment count, when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move or be moved. And I love that slogan. Impossible becomes irrelevant. I like it. I'm going to use that when I bet with FanDuel, because the NFL season, well, it's here. Week 2 is upon us. Week 3 of college football. There's a great slate of college football games, by the way. And FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with can't-miss offers. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Get out of here, man. I love player props. I love building same-game parlays and even jumping in live action as the game unfolds. Those are my favorite types of bets, and it just makes things more exciting and adds a little more energy to Sundays, man. And even college football games or whatever I'm betting on, it adds more excitement to it. It's quick and easy, and it's the best way to add a little more energy all the way, So if you're ready to play, download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. All right, we are wrapping up the show here. Locked On Vandy. Thanks for sticking with me. Thanks for hanging with me at Locked On Vandy on all social media platforms. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Make sure you make this thing free. Keep it free. Hit the subscribe button. I love you. Love you guys. All right. And I appreciate everything. So going back to the keys of the game, because talking about defense and talking about things to do, about how to make Sellers put everything on Sellers and just make him put the team on his back and beat you, right? That's a lot of pressure for anybody. I mean, I think Sellers could handle it, but I think you have to force him to try to handle it. Like, I think you have to force that on him. And I think you have to put everything else, I think you have to stop everything else. So for this defense suffocating the run game, which I just don't think, they were, and I imagine there's going to be some wrinkles. I imagine Mike Shula's got something up his sleeve that Vanderbilt has not seen. It's inevitable that that's going to happen. There's things that they haven't shown. They were being, and part of me, well, I don't know that if I believe that they were vanilla against Virginia Tech, because that's not a game that you really want to be vanilla against, because Virginia Tech's good enough that if you're vanilla and you're trying to hide something, they're going to beat you. But against South Carolina State, weather delay, I get it. You're not emptying the playbook there. I totally understand that. And Vanderbilt didn't empty the playbook against Charleston Southern. They did everything they needed to, and they worked on some things, but they didn't empty the playbook. So to me, with South Carolina, understanding that there's going to be some new wrinkles, there's going to be some new things. And the biggest question to consider is this: what are they going to do to try to revitalize the run game? Are they going to run LaNorris Sellers? Are they going to run him more, I should say? And when I say run him more, not like scrambles, I'm talking about quarterback design runs. How are they going to try to utilize that? What concepts are they going to utilize with that? Are they going to do more outside runs, where he's trying to get the edge and hit the sideline? Is there going to be some inside runs, some zone ISOs and some zone reads and things like that? Like, what are they going to do to utilize LaNorris Sellers in the quarterback run game, or I usually call it the +1 run game? What are they going to do there? That's a big question, because they haven't really shown much in that regard. And when they did, I think Virginia Tech was there to really kind of snuff it out. So how much are they willing to, at this point in the season, throw LaNorris Sellers around in the run game? Because honestly, I'm not sure that their run game is sustainable enough to win without LaNorris Sellers involved. And that's a big risk. And obviously he can take it, and I don't doubt that. But it's a big risk nonetheless. And Vanderbilt's defense will be wanting to get hits in on him. Like, if LaNorris Sellers is going to run the ball, you got to hit him. Not dirty, but you just got to hit him. You got to make him feel the hits. You've got to make those hits take a toll on him. Because quarterbacks do think about that. Like, if a quarterback is getting hit repeatedly, it's not a comforting feeling when you drop back or when you get involved in the run game, knowing that, hey, I'm about to get tattooed here. It's not a good feeling. And so if they're able to do that, there is a chance, because every quarterback has their breaking point. I don't know what Kyron Jones's obviously was. We found his. But I don't know what LaNorris Sellers' breaking point is. I imagine it's pretty high, so it's going to take a lot. But I think Vanderbilt is capable at this point, with the depth that they have and the schemes that they have and the more attention to detail that they have. They're more capable of being able to figure out what that breaking point is for LaNorris Sellers. So that's going to be a big key there, is just really just trying to disrupt Sellers, make him be the focal point of this offense, because I don't know that he wants to be the tip of the sword here. If you can take his weapons away, like his run game, his running backs, if you can limit his receivers, don't let Nick Harbor make that big catch down the field on a post route or a corner route or some sort of big crossing route. Like, if Nick Harbor is going to catch the ball, who's their main target, like, you've got to force him to be comfortable and be happy and be patient enough to catch a 5-yard hitch and take a hit. Or, like, you've got to be able to make sure that they have to drive the distance. And that's true for any team, really. That's not anything earth shattering, but like, I think teams that want to be explosive, that's the route you have to take. And as a defense, you have to be just as patient as the offense. and you have to take on the patience, and you have to force the offense to get out of their comfort zone, because offensive coordinators, I am one, offensive coordinators are not patient at all. They want to go, man. I get it. So I have more keys to get to, and I'm going to talk about these with I'm going to let you look at the third one. Take the crowd out of the game early with a long physical drive that gets points. I think if you have a long drive, even if you just get 3, and maybe not even, I think if you just have a long physical drive and that allows you to flip the field, even, I think that would be, it probably won't have the same effects as getting points, but I do think that would go a long way into setting the crowd into an emotion of like, okay, this crowd is now sitting on their hands. This crowd is now just kind of stunned. Like, if you can do that, especially if you get the ball first, if you can drive it down like you did in the second half and get points, that South Carolina crowd is going to be kind of like in awe a little bit. And then, of course, when South Carolina gets it, they're going to rip down the field. And you got to be able to respond to that. No matter what happens, you've got to be able to respond to that. So I'm going to let you guys take a look at this before I get out of here. I'm going to talk about these points with Chris Marler with Locked On Gamecocks. We're going to do a crossover. So we'll get more into these keys, and there'll be another perspective that, that I can bounce these ideas off of with him. And so that'll be a lot of fun. And then my game picks are going to be with him on the crossover. That's going to be a little bit different. So I'm not going to give you those just yet. But I hope you guys enjoy. And I hope you guys enjoy the rest of the week, and we'll get you into the weekend with a crossover, and that'll be a lot of fun. But until then, anchor down, peace out, and we'll talk to you. We'll see you when we see you.